Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome in. Or good morning for everybody on the West Coast as well. Good afternoon for everybody who's either in the Central or Eastern time zone. Thank you for joining us today for the NSF's Best of the Tech Tank webinar. We'll give a little bit more time for attendees to hop in here. I see we have just a couple more joining us throughout the time. We will have an opportunity for some Q&A, so please feel free to throw in some questions if you'd like. All righty, we'll get started here shortly. Just getting a couple more individuals in here. Today, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, today is the Best of the Tech Tank webinar here at the National Sports Forum. We have 3 different organizations who participate in the 2022 National Sports Forum Tech Tank competition hosted down in Austin, Texas, presenting today on what's new in sports business technology. So we'll give a little bit more time for everyone to join in. Just want to give a little bit of preview on what's kind of going on in today's session. We're looking forward to it. We got 3 different organizations. It'll be a great opportunity to learn how these different organizations can impact your different organizations with the services they provide. Awesome. We'll give it just a couple, 1 or 2 more minutes for it, and then we'll get started here. All right. So we'll get started here right now. Just wanted to reiterate, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the National Sports Forum Best of the Tech Tank webinar. As I had mentioned, we'll be having 3 different organizations touching on what's new in sports business technology and how each of these organizations can assist your organizational needs in a certain way. These 3 organizations, Alive5, Trak Software, and Factoreal, participated in our 2022 National Sports Forum Tech Tank competition this past February in Austin, Texas. There were 3 different tracks for each of the Tech Tank. There was marketing and fan engagement, which Factoreal had won. There was ticket sales and strategy, which Alive5 had won. And there was corporate partnership and brand activation, which Trak Software had won. So without further ado, let's hear from these companies about what is new in sports business technology. To start us off today, we'll be having Alive5. The Alive5 platform allows any business to chat with their customers using chatbot technology from their websites, apps, SMS text message, and social media pages. So we'll have Rohit Joshi today, the Director of Strategic Growth and Partnerships, joining us to share a little bit more about Alive5. Thank you, Rohit.
Hey, appreciate it, Pete, and great to have everybody on this call. Thank you for your time. I work with a lot of sports teams, so a lot of you on this call, I might have shown you this material before, so I apologize if this might be a rerun, but I definitely want to make sure that we use this time to refresh the value of what Alive5 can do for a sports organization with regard to digital messaging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and just a hat tip to Ron Seaver here. Good to have you on the call as well. Appreciate the time and the opportunity here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen, and let's do this. Pete, just give me a heads up. Are you able to see my screen right now?
Yep, you're all good.
All right, great. So yeah, absolutely. So, the value of Alive5 to any sports organization is that we can help streamline digital messaging for your sales, service, and marketing operations. So to jump right into it, about us, we're based in Houston, Texas. This is a little snapshot of the team here. Very multicultural team, very diverse team. But ultimately, what we do is we serve entities in the sports space, but elsewhere as well. And so what we want to do is really take the lessons that we've learned serving sports, travel, hospitality, everywhere else, and really synthesize them into really awesome engagement when it comes to B2C. We take a partnership approach to things as well. So it's not that we hand you a license and say, good luck, have fun with our software. When we do engage in partnerships, that's really the start of the relationship between us and our partners. And we really want to promote growth in the long term. And so we are backed by some of the best tech ecosystems in the world. Comcast, NBC Universal, Lift Labs has accepted us in their accelerator program, but entities like Capital Factory and Techstars, which are accelerator programs, global accelerator programs, have acknowledged us and accepted us into their ecosystems as well. And the problem that we're trying to solve ultimately is the Franken-chat problem. That's my CEO, Dustin Hughes, on the call. That's something that he coined, where ultimately, when it comes to engaging your fans in 2022 over messaging terms, there's a specific problem that's happening, because fans are chatting more than ever when it comes to SMS messaging, digital messaging, WhatsApping. I'm sure everybody on this call is group texting more than ever since the pandemic. That really goes for that is just the social preference these days, and that really is the preference of your fans. And so whenever it comes to you all taking on technologies that accommodate this newfound preference for messaging, digital messaging, there is a Franken-chat problem, where you take on different vendors, where you have different invoices, different relationships, different partnerships, things like that. But then whenever you take on different vendors for SMS, your live chat, your AI automation, things like that, you tend to get into these different workflows, right? Different training, different configurations. And ultimately, when you're talking about plugging that into your CRM, you're talking about several different integrations, and it is a data nightmare. It is a data breakage situation. So ultimately, what we're trying to deliver to the teams is one inbox, one consolidated inbox for live chat, SMS, and social media chatter via Facebook Messenger in one screen, via the Li5 platform. And beyond that, what we have is chatbot automation that can be applied to each one of these channels to really give you campaign support and be able to engage all your fans at your current scale. So kind of getting right into it, what we have is our web chat tool. So, we started off as Website Alive. I'm sure a lot of you recognize that brand name and have used us in your past. And we've really taken those lessons and that insight, delivering an awesome, best-in-class website tool, and synthesized a newer tool with Alive5. So this is our web chat tool right here. Anything in motion, just FYI, is a GIF. So don't worry about if you miss anything, it'll cycle again from the top. But this is an example of the Alive5 web chat for the LA Dodgers. And so everything you're seeing here is totally customizable. What we'd like to say is we're helping you deliver a virtual front desk receptionist for your website via our chatbot. So everything that you're seeing here, as far as the look, the color, the content, step 1, deliver this message. Step 2, drop a YouTube video. Step 3, start collecting name, email, phone number. That is exactly what the LA Dodgers wanted out of their particular configuration. And so everything you're seeing here is per your spec. And we have the chatbot engaging the fans, delivering tier 1 information, doing lead capture, things like that. And whenever the fan signals that they want to chat with a live sales rep, then it gets escalated. So the chatbot opens every deal, and a human is always on the back end to close every deal. That's our kind of offering on the web chat side. SMS, very similar to what you may already know with these zip whips or the hustles or the reply buys of the world, where we can text enable. Looks like we're talking about Facebook. Let me skip to SMS really quick. So again, on the SMS side, what we're talking about is very similar to what you may already know on the SMS side with zip whip, reply buy, hustle, things like that, where their abilities to text enable the 1-800 lines or each one of your reps desk lines is possible. And so with our system, what we do is we offer a very inclusive thing. So you buy one license with us, there's no per text cost sent in or out of the system. With that one license, you can text enable up to 50 phone numbers. Wouldn't recommend that just because you are you're only going to have one person to log in and field all those messages. So ultimately just showing you how inclusive we are. And then, as far as any ZipWhip users on the platform right now, we do offer a ZipWhip migration tool, which allows you to essentially migrate all the data when it comes to fan information, chat transcript information, multimedia that has been sent into your ZipWhip account. We can slide that into Alive5 with just a click of a mouse. So Ultimately, what that does is it breeds continuity in your SMS services. So for those on the call that are looking to find an alternative to your ZipWhip accounts, just because they have signaled end of life, Live5 is a great alternative to that. And then just going back a step, Facebook Messenger. So a lot of teams ultimately don't have a formalized approach when it comes to engaging fans on Facebook. A lot of times I hear that social media teams that manage the Facebook Messenger component, they tend to get a lot of just riffraff coming through the door. A lot of people saying, hey, this is Dikembe Mutombo, I want 10,000 tickets, right? And so therefore, Facebook Messenger doesn't necessarily get a lot of seriousness. It doesn't get a lot of formality when it comes to that type of chatter. But what we can do, all those messages that are happening over Facebook, we can route them into a Live5 and have them managed alongside your live chat and SMS conversations, and engage fans in a more formalized way. There's the old adage, if it doesn't go to CRM, it never happened, right? If it's not CRM, it didn't happen. So what we can do is, if you are connected to a Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics environment via Live5, all the messaging that does happen over Facebook Messenger can be pushed into CRM. So you can say, hey, over the course of one season, we got 7.5% of all of our ticket leads coming from Facebook. Let's throw some more gasoline on that fire. And then similar to what I showed you on the Dodgers live chat example, we do have similar type of chatbot interactivity that we can apply onto your Facebook Messenger channels that allow you to, again, sift out the tire kickers and the social media riffraff and really engage fans with a chatbot push button menu, allow them to kind of find their way to your sales reps or your service reps, collect their lead information, things like that. So there is enhanced functionality by running Facebook Messenger through a Live5. And then one of the coolest parts about our system is that we're PCI compliant. So whether it's over web chat, Facebook Messenger, or SMS, what we can do is collect 16-digit credit card information without necessarily having to tee up that phone call, right? A lot of the sales reps on the call right now will definitely agree that when it comes to engaging fans over SMS or live chat, the next step is always, okay, I have your information, but what's a good time for me to get on a call with you so I can get your 16-digit credit card information. So that just provides a lot of uncertainty, a lot of risk where the fan, they might change their mind in between agreeing to that phone call and from that text message conversation. They might just ghost you if you do call them, things like that. So what you can do is whenever the fan signals to the affirmative that, yeah, I'm ready to buy, we can take their 16-digit credit card information via the Live Pay functionality. So in this little screenshot here, what we can do, and this is a workflow over SMS, and the fan, you're texting a fan and says, hey, it's renewal season, are you in or are you out? And they say, yeah, I'm in, just call me at 7 p.m. tonight. What you can say is, hey, I can actually take your credit card information right now. And so through a Live Pay, what you can do is submit a credit card request where it sends over a PCI compliant link within the SMS conversation, live chat conversation, Facebook Messenger conversation, whichever channel you're having this conversation over. The fan opens up that link on their phone, they put in their credit card information, they hit submit. When they hit submit, they're taken back to the conversation. But for the rep, it operates kind of like Snapchat, but for credit card information, where you get to see the 16-digit credit card information for 10 minutes. There's a little countdown timer here, and after 10 minutes, this information is deleted. But within that window, you have 10 minutes to copy and paste this and put this into your credit card system. So we're not merchant gateway, we're not a payment processor. And so again, we're just a secure tunnel to shuttle PCI compliant information from the fan side to the rep side in a very, very expedited and secure way. So definitely one of the higher pieces of our platform. We are connectable to Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. As I said earlier, we do take into account SSB, core, any sort of third-party ticket overlays. We got you covered as far as pushing this data and all the chat information from Live5 into your CRM environment. And then, so talking about the bigger picture, we can facilitate bigger conversations, more conversations by providing you one hub for all your different chat happenings over live chat, SMS, Facebook Messenger. But we figured out 3 tactical capabilities that create more chatter. Just starting on the right-hand side of the screen, the shrugging Jordan. It's catching your eye, and that's the whole point. We can put better buttons on your website. When you get more eyes on the chat call to action, you get more clicks. When you get more clicks, you get more chats. Simple. But the middle icon here is our short URL. So our short URL allows for that chat window that lives on your website to be accessible beyond your website. So we have teams putting this in their social media pages. We have teams splicing this short URL inside of the body of emails. So again, that chat traffic that was exclusively reserved for those visitors to your website can be extended to whoever opens up your emails, whoever visits your social media page, your link in bios, things like that. So again, that chat support moves off of your website and makes it available everywhere across the digital horizon. And then the last is a QR code generator. So we have a QR code generator, allows you to create these branded QR code experiences and view that trust to the fan that, hey, if I scan this and we take into, in this case, Milwaukee Bucks destination. But what we can do is have these QR codes start a chat conversation, whether it's over web chat, Facebook Messenger, or my particular favorite is SMS, where people can scan a QR code. Upon scan, it opens up the messaging app, whether it's iOS or Android phones, addressed to your phone number, and we can preload a message saying, I'm looking for tickets, and all they have to do is hit send. And so it's a great way to really snare in inbound conversations. And for some of you who know SMS, when fans ultimately start the conversation, whenever they fire the first shot, they're signaling consent. So this is a great way to really snare in more consent and grow your SMS subscriber list over the long run. I know we're running low on time, so I'm really going to fly through the automation side of things. As far as what chatbot automation can do for your organization, it allows you to ultimately scale your sales, marketing, customer service initiatives without scaling your workforce, right? And so ultimately, we have this chatbot builder, which allows you to visualize the logic, the cadence, the tone of how you want our chatbots to talk to your fans on your behalf. So in this particular GIF, what I'm doing is I'm creating a chatbot over web chat, but it looks very similar over SMS, where fans can ultimately engage with the chatbot, but on your terms. And so what you're doing here is you're defining the customer journey. First message is, hi, thanks for coming. And the second step in the customer journey that the chatbot is going to prompt the fan is, what would you like to learn today? And the fan clicks the tickets button. We're going to create the multiple choice button options in the interface. Or over SMS, press 1 for tickets, press 2 for schedule, so on and so forth. So if the fan hits the tickets button, we're going to send them to the ticket page. But if the fan hits the schedule button, just to show you the variance in the content that you can sling out, we can say, hey, you can send them to the schedule page, or we could just log in, right, playing X, Y, and Z in the coming weeks and deliver that as a message. So total control on the options you deliver to your fans, but also you're giving your fans a very predefined destination on where you want to send them. Take them from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel using automation. And so what can you do with automation? This is what the Boston Celtics are doing. They're power users of our systems. The NBA final Boston Celtics, if I don't mind mentioning that. But ultimately what they've done with their chatbots, they've created multiple chatbots. They don't have that one interface to rule them all on their website. What they've done on their homepage, they've created a customer journey that is a little bit fluffier, end-to-end, serves single game tickets, season tickets, stadium tours, everything in between. But then if you tab over to their suite rental page, you see that they're very different when they're approaching their fans. They know that their suites are rented by high net worth VIPs. And so when it comes to engaging VIPs, they know the cadence, they know the tone, they know the language that needs to be used to engage them and convert them, most importantly. So you can see here that, hey, you're looking to rent a suite. What's the best way to connect? Let's get straight to the point, right? Let's get into transactions. Same type of approach applies to the ticket page, premium ticket page, group tickets page. They mentioned that this configuration of setting up multiple chatbots across different product lines and service sets has broken chat sales records month after month this season. So it's really a great way to really enhance your website and make the most of it. Beyond the website, what can you do with this chatbot design and logic designer and the bot builder? Here's what the Yankees are doing. They created a upgrade assistant chatbot inside Yankee Stadium using the chatbot builder, and they made that available through a QR code. And so when fans scan the QR code, in this particular case, a C tag, which was stuffed in a cup holder at Yankee Stadium, they would engage in this upgrade assistant that offered to lever the empty inventory at Yankee Stadium in exchange for data capture. So if the fan hits, upgrade your seats tonight at no cost, if the fan hits no, then they're saying, okay, great, enjoy the rest of your game. But if they hit yes, then they get into a lead capture, an automated, what's your name, what's your email, what's your cell phone number. And then we actually escalated that to a live Yankee sales rep We ask them, what seat are you sitting in, fan? And we'll give you an upgraded seats because we have your information. We'll email you those new tickets. So great engagement here, about 83% engagement inside the Yankee Stadium. 50% of all the sessions captured at least a name and an email. So a great way to really start harvesting data. Here's an example of what Rice University did with their chatbot design. They held up a sign behind Good Morning America saying, hey, if you want one free ticket to our marquee matchup, Rice versus Texas at NRG Stadium, text this phone number. And what they did was they engaged fans over an SMS back and forth. So you can see in this series of 7 back and forths, they were able to collect cell phone, name, email, things like that. And they were able to manually follow up on that same conversation thread later on in that day to complete that transaction. Using the chat bot to engage fans over RSN is a huge coup. I think it's a low-hanging fruit for a lot of teams on this call right now. Being able to create an enter to win type of chatbot that collects name, email, phone number. We have an NBA team on the West Coast that created a similar type of enter to win. Put a QR code on their RSN broadcast. They were getting about 25 name, email, and cell phone numbers a second of QR code exposure. So again, being able to harvest data in your local geo, get those fans who are choosing to stay at home, sitting on their couch, watching your product, get them inside your stadium. This is a great way to really start activating those fans and getting them inside the stadium. Long-term value, beyond setting up with chatbot technology and things like that, we have a lot of teams using our platform. And so the long-term value is being able to activate the ideas of this shared community of ideas, right? So, whatever the Celtics create, you can ultimately say, hey, maybe that can work for my website, or maybe that can work for inside of my stadium. And so that's where you can copy and steal and really sample from this kind of creative aspect of the platform that allows you to really say, hey, this is an open-end platform. We saw what was happening in LA, or we saw what was happening in Chicago or Milwaukee. Let's see if we can run that in our arena, in our local geo. So that's the long-term value of working with the Live 5. I know we're going over time, so I'm going to put a sock in it, but I really appreciate the time. And if you definitely want to chat about what a Live 5 can do, hit me up at Rohit, ROHIT at alive5.com. Happy to have a conversation with you. With that, I'm just going to pass the mic to Pete, and you can take it over from there.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rohit. Really appreciate it. Alive 5, please, if you have any questions, please throw them into the chat. We'd love to kind of get those out there. And any questions for him, please feel free, or as he had mentioned, email them over to him as well. But kind of up next on our side, we'll be moving forward with Factoreal. Factoreal is an all-in-one marketing automation and fan engagement platform designed specifically for sports teams and leagues to drive revenue across ticket sales, merchandise, and even F&B, food and beverage. Factoreal empowers teams to do this through our supercharged engagement model using fan behavior, AI insights, and machine learning to help make data-driven decisions. So without further ado, we have Cody Haynes, Director of Business Development for Sports and Entertainment, with us from Factoreal. Cody, welcome in.
Thanks, Peter, for the introduction. Glad to be here with everyone. Peter, you can see my screen?
Yep, you're all good.
All good, cool. Yeah, great introduction. Like Peter said, our goal is to help teams better understand your fan base so that you can make data-driven, revenue-generating decisions. And as we know, data is the new oil. Data should drive every direct-to-consumer business out there. So here's a little bit about us. We are a new company founded in 2019 underneath the umbrella of Tech Mahindra and the Mahindra Group. Tech Mahindra is a massive technology company based in India. And then here, some of the customers that we work with, we have league partnerships with NISA and USL. So fan journeys, as we probably all know, fan journeys can be extremely complicated. They can sometimes look like this, a web of data, and you really don't know where it's going, right? But we really want to simplify things, and we want your fan journeys to look more like this, okay? So Factoreal is a data warehouse, and we sit in the middle of all of your digital channels. So we're pulling information from your website, We're pulling information from your online shop, whether that's Shopify, Fanatics, or something custom. We're pulling information from your ticketing system. We're also pulling information from CRM. If you have a connected POS in your venue, we can pull in buying behaviors at your concession stands within your venue. And then also we're tying into your social media channels to engage those metrics and behaviors happening online with your social media channels. And at Factoreal, our goal is to simplify things. Too often teams have disparate tools spread across the organization, and they don't always talk to each other. So we're trying to bring everything under one roof, all of your digital channels managed under one platform. And when we say that, we're talking about your social media marketing, paid and organic. Also your email marketing. We are your email provider. SMS marketing. Ticket campaigns via SMS will be deployed through our platform. No need for outside vendors, outside technologies. Mobile app push notifications is all handled through our platform. As I mentioned, we tie into your online shop. Abandoned cart campaigns are great activities to run through our platform. And one that I think is overlooked, especially as a former director of ticket sales in the NBA, is our website tracking tool. In my time in the NBA, I always wanted to know who was on our website, what pages are they visiting, how long were they on each page, and how can we retarget those people? And so through our website tracking tool, we are able to help you uncover anonymous visitors to your website so that you can retarget them through email, through SMS, through a Facebook ad, whichever method of communication you prefer. But these people are searching your brand and your team. So let's retarget them with a personalized message. And here, what we're looking at is kind of the whole track of how the platform works, all in one here. So we're pulling information from all of these different data sources. Again, your CRM, your website, team app, online store. We're unifying all of that data into one location for you. Again, never leaving our platform. This is all within our data warehouse. Once we have that data unified, then you're able to actually see the transactional data, the behavioral data that your fans are engaging in, and also engagement metrics on all of your communication channels. We're always looking at that to see what's the most efficient way to communicate with your fans. Once we have all of that, then we're providing a true 360-degree view of your fan base. For years, it's always been fan A bought a ticket, and that's all we knew. And we called him and assumed that they were a great lead. Now, with all of this data coming in through these different sources, we now know that they bought a ticket. They also spend X amount at your concessions. They buy the new jersey every year, and they're engaged in your social media platforms. So this is a really, really good lead. Now that we know all that information, we want to personalize all of our messaging. If we're talking about concessions, a good example is we know this segment of fans, they purchase hot dogs versus hamburgers. So next time we send them a ticket and a food offer, we're going to send them a ticket and a hot dog offer. And then we have another hamburger segment, and we're going to send them a ticket and a hamburger offer. We want to speak to people the way that they want to be spoken to, right? A tailored, personalized message. We're also building custom audiences, custom segments, so that you can target these people throughout the lifetime of the platform. Here's where you build journeys, all automated journeys that are working continuously in the back once they're built. And then once we have all that built, we have the journey, we have the personalization built, then we're going to decide how are we going to communicate with our fans? Do we want to send them an email? Do we want to send them SMS, mobile push notifications? The beauty of Factoreal's omni-channel approach is that we can communicate in all of these ways, right? We can have a custom trigger set to where it sends an email to your fans, wait 2 days, send them an SMS, and then based on their actions, we can go back to email, or we can maybe retarget them with a Facebook ad. So the omni-channel approach is key here. You want to have multiple ways to communicate with your fans, and this data just continues to cycle and enrich, and we learn more and more about your fan base so that we can target them to hopefully draw some revenue, because I know that's what everybody wants to do. So when we're looking at your fan base, right, they're in buckets. We have your marginal fans who are basically inactive, very limited engagement, right? Then we have your casual fans. Your casual fans is where most people will fall. They're just looking for some good entertainment with the family or friends. They attend a few home games, don't spend a ton of money with you. Then you start to get to your emotionally engaged fans. They love the game. They're opening most of your emails, maybe. They're attending games. And then, of course, we have your fanatics, who are your diehard fans. And the goal with our supercharged fan engagement is to move your fans along this fan maturity model, because the further they get, or the closer they get to fanatics, the more money they're going to spend with you, whether that's merchandise, tickets, and obviously once they're in the building, they got to eat and drink, so they're going to buy F&B. So the goal with this engagement is to move them along this model so that they're generating more revenue for your team. And again, this shows how we do that. So we centralize all of your fan data, right? So teams, like I mentioned earlier, teams may have multiple tech solutions spread across the organization. They don't always talk like they should to each other. There's some data loss there. Being that you're never going to leave the Factoreal platform, that's not an issue. So we consolidate all of that data. Then we're going to decide how we're going to communicate with our fans. We're going to automate all of this process. So we're not manually using man hours within the organization, which become very costly. It's going to be hyper personalized. We're going to speak to people the way they want to be talked to, right? We're going to send the right message to the right person at the right time, and then via the right channel. And then we're going to monetize all of that engagement, whether it's F&B, merchandise, or ticket sales, which are most of the drivers for teams here. And then one last thing I'll kind of talk about. This is an example from the Jacksonville Jaguars, is consolidating your tech stack. This is something that comes up so much with teams. The Jacksonville Jaguars were able to simplify their tech stack 9 to 1. They were able to consolidate 9 different technologies into Factoreal. And here's an example of just some of the things that they were using, and they were able to consolidate into Factoreal. And they estimated that they saved about $150,000 just by consolidating to Factoreal, saving manpower. Like I mentioned, that manual reports are no more with Factoreal. There's no manual reporting should be happening within Factoreal. Everything should be automated. Your journeys are automated. So saving those man hours, that's a huge thing. Total cost of ownership comes down with all of your complete tech stack. We should save you a lot of time in shopping tech tools also, right? Because a lot of what we offer is all in one, and you don't need to go out and shop different technologies, have different expiring contracts. You may have a contract that expires this month, and then you have another tech tool that expires next month, and you got to use time and manpower to negotiate those contracts every single year. So that's Factoreal. Factoreal, we want to make it as simple as possible. We want to make every marketer can be a pro. I am not a marketer. I'm a ticket sales revenue guy, and I can easily jump into the platform and do this. No expertise needed. So if you want to reach out to me afterwards, happy to have one-on-one conversations. My email is cody@factoreal.com. I'm happy to talk with anybody after this call as well. And that's what I have. Peter?
Cody, thank you very much and very appreciate it. Everybody who has been paying attention, please feel free to reach out to each of these organizations. They had one for a reason within our Best of the Tech Tank. And so there's great opportunities here for them to help service your organizations moving forward. And so lastly, but not least on our side, we'll be having Trak Software. Trak is a cloud-based collaboration service specializing in project management, CRM, and digital presentations. It creates highly configurable automated workflows to bring each step of the sponsorship process into one intuitive place. So without further ado, please welcome on Cameron Oliver, the co-founder of Trak Software. Cameron?
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're all good to go.
Right on. Okay. And it says I can't turn on my video. You might have to, Peter.
See here for yourself. There we go.
Right on. All right, we'll get started. Excited to be here. Let me share my screen. And we're going to take a little bit of approach. I have some slides here that we're going to cover. But then at the end, probably in the last few minutes, I'm actually going to interview one of our clients, how it relates to kind of the content that we'll go through in Kate Gassabula in the Raven. So who will hop on here shortly. Okay, so let me open this up and go through some of content that we had in Tech Tank. Okay, so why does Trak exist? Trak exists to increase the value of sponsorship. So the space that we work in, different than the other two, is we're on the B2B side of the sports entertainment space. And so what we help people do is manage their sponsorship portfolios. Now, that can either be managing them from a brand and agency perspective, as in I'm buying a portfolio of sponsorships, or it's from a property perspective where I'm selling a portfolio of sponsorships. Regardless of which side of the fence of that contract you sit on, you're going to be wondering, how do I make the assets that are purchased, the activations that are purchased, the most impactful? How do I maximize every single dollar amount, if I'm a brand, or every single asset to make sure that it performs as expected? And so what we'll go through today is just a few examples of how we help. Now, the first example that I always pull up is, regardless of, once again, what side of the fence you sit on, the partnership management or the sponsorship management is a disconnected way to work. And so initially what happens, and I'll kind of use my mouse over here, is from a pre-sales perspective, everybody gets really excited. Salesperson on the property side, brand and agency on the buying side, they have all these grand goals, and they go and negotiate a sponsorship and eventually get to a signed contract. And then what happens? Hopefully Trak is the answer for that. But prior to Trak, a lot of that is managed in spreadsheets, emails, phone calls, bloated email inboxes from a file size perspective, presentations, different people, different humans, different agencies. And then by the end of the process, hopefully you're celebrating because it worked as expected on the pre-sale side. But what doesn't exist is a holistic approach to actually managing partnerships start to finish. And so that's really where Trak comes in. And so in order to kind of go through that, we're actually going to take a little bit different approach to it. And we're going to understand the problem from the property's perspective and show you some few examples about how we help. And then also from a brand perspective, once again, showing a few examples how we help. And then we'll bring Kate on toward the end and talk through some real life examples. So first thing I want to talk out is introduce you to a partnership manager on the property side, right? Ultimately, what they are going to do is they're managing partnerships. This one for the Mighty Ducks, maybe his last name is Bombay. He's the day-to-day contact for a group of partnerships that he manages on behalf of the team. Now, his daily challenge is basically is buried in email, buried in file folders, buried in spreadsheets, inboxes bloated with MP3s and MP4s and MP4s that are massive in size, and Dropbox links and box links, depending on what we're chasing. Completely reactive to client demands as they come in to change the activations. And it's hard to actually hit deadlines, right? Those really hard deadlines for when they're actually doing home games, such as print deadlines or signage deadlines. And so some of the benefits of Trak immediately are going to be, how do you log in and orchestrate the resources? And so what you can see in the visual here is where Gordon logs in, looks at all the partnerships, maybe wants to dive into PPG Industries, the specific partnership. and then maybe wants some additional information or update the status on some of the broadcast entitlements post-game. Maybe he wants to see who's responsible for it. Maybe he wants to know what creative we're using. Are we swapped out in the contracts? And ultimately, the multimedia part of the sponsorship management side is important. Now, in addition to orchestrating the resources of day-to-day activation, you also have to orchestrate the resources of partnership performance data, right? Because as you negotiate these and be part of the brand, you have to understand the KPIs that you're trying to deliver on and how those actually go through. And so what we're showing here is PPG Industries becomes a partnership inside Trak, and it can contain everything from the partnership assets to the partnership tasks, to the partnership notes, to the partnership performance data. And so all of those things can be completely customized, organized, and orchestrated all in one location. And I'll click forward there. So the next phase is, what about recaps? Okay. And recaps are, if you talk to anybody in partnership management, they are the absolute toughest part of this. And recaps, for those who don't know, are a visual representation of the entire partnership over a period of time. Now, typically these are done once a year because it takes a few months to put them together for a portfolio of 50 or 60 clients. But the goal of this is to communicate that value back to the client. And so with Trak, by the end of the process, somebody like Gordon, all the information is in Trak. You have the attachments, you've got the performance data. And so turning it around into that presentation becomes a matter of 15 to 20 seconds. Versus previously, Gordon may have spent months wrapping his arms around the email inbox, the threads of conversations, the partnership performance data that's in spreadsheets, the attachments that might be saved in some file folder somewhere. Maybe it's file folders on his outbox or his inbox. And so this is actually our presentation tool that can immediately created with the assets that exist in Trak. But now let's change gears. What about on the brand or agency side? And those people who are managing sponsorships, right, on a portfolio that they've purchased. And so Jane is the marketing director for WinStar Communications, and she's responsible for the activations of their entire portfolio. So some of her daily challenges are a little bit similar to Gordon's, right? But they're a little bit different in the way that number one is, it's a hard time justifying the sponsorship budget each year, right? Especially when you want to focus on objective partnership results. Usually what it means is last minute exchanges from properties, which is poorly executed activations, right? So we had this grandiose plan pre-contract to use our game day sponsorship to do this. But unless we have 3 months to plan well ahead of time, sometimes it can perform a little bit less than what we wanted to. There's a lack of ROI provided from each of my properties, and it's different at each property. And the property actually is establishing what that partnership performance data is back to me. So how do I actually validate my spend based on the objectives that we have in place, right? And at the end of the day, which partnerships are working, let alone which partnership assets are actually working. And so in the same form that Gordon has, when you talk about accountability and orchestration, right, you're going to notice that in Trak, you see it a little bit different. You've got the brand in the top left, and Mighty Ducks is a partnership that exists inside Jane's instance. And so some of the specific things that a brand and agency work on, and we're going to highlight that, is what are the results that you expect from the web banner ad? What are some of the results you expect from the concourse sign? Right? And as you align and work on the attachments that are part of that, right below this in the same platform is also the performance data. So once again, whether that's hand filled out by the property, which once again, please fill out this for me is a very common thing that Jane used to do, which is like, hey, please fill out this spreadsheet. But all of it's contained and shared with Gordon Bombay in one location. And so Jane has the ability to basically orchestrate those resources in the same manner. As I click through, we're going to look at another one. So from a brand's perspective, they want to make sure that they deliver as much value to the organization as their digital media teammates. And what do we mean by that? There's a boardroom set up, and the CMO goes around the room to all of his or her specific functions and says, what's your monthly report? Digital has this nice pre-packaged, you gave me $1 million, I gave you back 1.4, right? Sponsorship is hard. Sponsorship has to sit there and validate in the same room. And so what Trak does, it allows them to orchestrate those resources, have that visibility into the ROI data, and communicate that back up to their CMO, right, in a way that actually makes sense. right? Because what they don't do, believe it or not, on the property side, sometimes is they don't put your recap up there and go partnership by partnership and say, here's a recap of our partnership with property one. Here's a recap with our partnership with property two. It just doesn't work that way, right? They've got to control the narrative and enter into that boardroom with the right information. And so some of that obviously comes out in Trak in the different points that it can. And ultimately, what we want brands and agencies to be better do is when you have a handle on the partnership management process, you can make better decisions, right? And better decisions, whether it's a social media campaign change across the portfolio of 40 or 50 partnerships, so where you understand what's working and what's not working, right? You know your brand, the property knows their audience. What about merchandise? Right? A dashboard of merchandise. Where is it? Is it stuck in a closet? Is it stuck in their closet? Is it whose closet is this merchandise stuck in? That's a common answer that hopefully we can find within Trak. And then at the end of the day, brand and agencies want to look at it from this perspective, which is visually which partnerships based on the criteria that I care about, right? The performance data that I actually invest in. How does that map back to kind of this quadrant of performance? And in the top right, you have your high performers and expensive partnerships. In the bottom left, you have the less expensive, least performers. And your outliers are what's scary, right? If this doesn't form some linear visual logo, you either have a partnership that's really expensive and not performing well, or you have a less expensive partnership that is performing really well, right? And so maybe you want to adjust and make better decisions from that point. And so once again, after Trak, right, Gordon knows exactly how organizational impact can happen at his partnerships, and he can deliver on that. Productivity, maven and wizard, right? Sports entertainment, we work long hours. It's hard. How can we reclaim time to actually spend doing the job that we were hired to do, right? And your teammates internally at the property, right? I know when I was in sponsorship working with the internal team, we would beg and plead for the sponsorship inclusion into the game script or into the radio. And the elimination of fire drills. Ultimately, we want to be able to have somebody like Gordon have their work or house in order, right? So that way we know how effective it is. And at the end of the day, usually somebody like Gordon is hired to say, build a relationship with these partners, work on upsells, right? Work on renewals, build strong relationships, have them come to games, but they turn into kind of pencil pushers, right? And version controls. And then from Jane's perspective, right after Trak, is there's confidence in the sponsorship portfolio and its ability and confidence in delivering back to the organization. She has data to validate this against traditional marketing, right? Or sitting in that boardroom next to her, and can orchestrate the internal resources with plenty of time without the headaches that are typically those fire drills or those last minute exchanges that we have with the property. And at the end of the day, the granular view of each partnership allows you to improve asset utilization. So we work with just a little bit of our logo slide here. We work brands and agencies and properties, right? We have thousands of active monthly users, all kind of looking at that sponsorship contract going, how do we maximize that? How do we make sure that the way we're managing it allows us to actually maximize it? And then we're usually measured kind of in two ways that we call it. Efficiency, which is how do we help teams do better work, which is what we're going to talk a lot about to Kate about. And then what about effectiveness, right? And so when you talk about reclaiming your time and spending 40% more time actually managing the relationship with the client, you then are able to actually impact asset utilization, right? And so both of those things kind of combined are how we usually measure the impact of Trak. So with that, we have a testimonial slide that I'll stop sharing here, but I would love to spend some time with Kate. So Kate is the VP of Client Services for the Baltimore Ravens. We've worked with Kate for 6+ years. Kate, thank you for joining us, by the way. I'll start with that. But we just went through the pitch with Trak, and I think ultimately, you've invested in Trak for a lot of years. And I guess just to kind of throw it to you, unrelated to maybe the pitch, why do you feel like Trak is a pretty good, above average partner for your world in client services and the B2B relationship with the Ravens?
Sure. So nothing like, having trouble with a technology platform, as I'm about to speak about a technology platform, very apropos. But for us, we manage a lot of different accounts, a lot of varying accounts, that have one asset to what feels like a million assets. And so the thing for us that has really helped is that Trak keeps us organized across every size of the account. And with us too, with each account having so many different assets and variables and, different due dates, it keeps everybody on track, pun intended there. That, we're not constantly nagging our partner to say, hey, your print ad's due, it's due, just a reminder, 5 days from now, that all of the automatic reminders are set in there. So an email notification comes across and can say, M&T Bank, your print ad is due next week, your signage is due in 2 weeks. And, like so many people, companies will change their creative throughout the year, that we don't get lost in the, well, I emailed it to you 2 weeks ago. Is it this attachment? Is it that attachment? And you can easily see which one it's supposed to be.
And I think some of this, which goes into the next part of this, is that within Trak, we didn't talk a lot about it today, but what happens is the brand and the agency bring the property owner, the property brings the agency into one central location to manage this. And so some of what Kate just described is kind of that homepage for the partnership, where you've got all 3 of the parties in there collaborating, and the advantages of that. And then you've been doing this for 6 years, in which you're introducing your partners to new technology. And probably some folks on the call are thinking like, oh, that sounds kind of scary. I would say you're the expert at it. What was your client's reaction maybe 6 years ago compared to today? Or how do you get the clients to adopt it and actually start working with you? And I'll just say that from a new person looking at Trak, sometimes that's the biggest question in their mind, is like, oh man, can I really ask somebody to change the way they're working? So what has your team's experience been with bringing clients in either year after year or even a brand new partner?
So when we launched the program, like you said, 6 years ago, you and your team obviously were really instrumental in that too. And that we made a commitment that if we're going to use it, we're going to use it. We're going to jump in and we're going to really push our partners to do it. And, we find ourselves, hey, thanks for emailing me your ad, but please submit it here. So that we hosted sort of a learning session with them and showed them how it would work. And for partners that couldn't make it to town, we did a Zoom session with them, which now 6 years ago, everybody was like, what's Zoom?
I remember that.
We jumped in and we showed them how to use it and kind of kept redirecting them to use it rather than sort of accepting the emails back and forth. And that was a big jumping point for all of our partners. And now I feel like each year, a lot of our partners do stay the same year after year, which is great. So we can just roll over the accounts and say, your 2022 account is ready to go. And then new partners that we have, we basically go through an onboarding process with them, and we'll show them, hey, here's this account system. Here's, your login information. Here's all the due dates, the specs, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll walk them through, sometimes it's like a 15-minute tutorial. But again, like I can't reiterate enough that it just helps keep everybody, all on the same path.
Yeah, awesome. And after 6 years, you have 4 or 5 years of prior experience. And so when you're bringing in, hey, M&T Bank just brought in 2 new sponsorship coordinators and marketing coordinators, and we just signed a different agency of record. With 6 years of what did we do last year, right? Which I think is a common term that when I started in sponsorship year after year, somebody would be like, what did they do last year? It's like, hopefully I can find it. But there's historical record that kind of keeps in place. And I guess for my last question, how valuable has 6 years of Trak being in place changed the way that those either new contacts come into the platform or even new, Ravens partnership assignments?
Well, I think too, in 6 years, our team, kind of working backwards in your questions, our team has changed, but maybe the partner has stayed with the team. So staffing wise for us, we can say, here's some of their old files, and you're not trying to dig around in a computer somewhere of where was this saved, where was that saved. A lot of that work is there, which is great. And I think that, you kind of covered it all. It's like whether there's a change in an agency or, hey, is this the same size as last year, or they're running behind on their deadlines. We can easily pull like, hey, here's your radio spot that you ran in preseason. Okay, that's still great. Let's roll with it. And they have access to all their previous files so they can see it. And I think even too, as we've gotten more sophisticated with our partners, we've created line items and channels for them to upload and submit artwork for their approvals. And again, all that in-market creative, is stored in one place again, rather than like, did I save it in my email? Did I save it in this folder? And so we've been able to, customize it and get it down to the nitty gritty with each partner.
Very nice. Thank you, Kate. I'm out of time. I appreciate you hopping on and providing the actual real life proof to the pitch statement. But I'll kind of wrap up, Peter. I'm going to send, just so everybody knows, if you want more information on Trak, obviously ready to answer those questions. I'm also going to put the presentation that we ran through. I'm going to put a link in through the chat as well as my contact info. So NSF, thanks for letting us be part of the program. And Peter, I'll throw it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys hopping on here today, Kate, as well as Cameron. We appreciate you guys kind of hopping in here and being able to share a little bit more about Trak Software and your organization. And in regards to that, now kind of on the last end side, one lastly, please a round of applause on your own side for everybody who has been presenting today. We appreciate you guys coming in here for the NSF's Best of the Tech Tank webinar. As we had mentioned beforehand, these are the best organizations out here in regards to new sports business and technology. So please feel free to give a shout out to either Trak, Alive 5, or as well as Factoreal moving forward to help out your marketing needs, whether it be ticket sales and strategy, corporate partnership and brand activation, or marketing and fan engagement. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the NSF Best of the Tech Tank webinar. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll join us next time here for an NSF free webinar. Thank you everyone. Have a good rest of your day.